Gems of Buddhist Wisdom. Religion in a Multi-Religious Society, 29. By Venerable Dr. K Sri Dhammananda. The teachings and messages of the founders of world religions were primarily aimed at alleviating sufferings and bringing peace and happiness to mankind through the application of moral and ethical conduct and righteous living. However, world religions today have developed into massive organized impersonal institutions, with the result that the original teachings of their respective founders have been so eroded or neglected that hardly any influence is left over their followers, particularly in the field of simplicity, restraint, truthfulness, and selflessness. The moral content of religion and its peace-promoting spiritual values are clouded by the more attractive materialistic values. Many followers of world religions have ignored or slighted the injunctions of their religious teachers in order to seek power, fame, and other material gains for their personal aggrandizements that tend to pollute the minds of modern religionists and cause unhealthy competitions and barriers amongst different religious groups as well as within the same religious community. Religious tolerance. When one studies the history of the various world religions and the great influence religions had on people over a long period of time, one can understand the mistakes that have been committed through religious intolerance. Words like persecution, heretics, heathens, pagans, and many others of similar caliber have crept into the vocabulary of religious books to describe all the brutalities, cruelties, prejudices, and discrimination carried out in the name of religion due to religious intolerance. These unfortunate occurrences have left a stigma on religion, so much so that many thinking people tend to turn away from the very word religion itself. Real religious values are rapidly deteriorating and disappearing from the minds of men, even from amongst those who are designated as religious people. To counter this unfortunate trend, it is necessary and essential for a proper study and research into the practice of religious principles to be undertaken by all concerned in order to bring about better understanding and awareness of true spiritual values of religion and to avoid the unfortunate mistakes of the past. Religious education. To coexist in peace and harmony in a multi-religious society, one should have a sound religious education with strong emphasis on moral and ethical values as the first positive step towards better understanding and mutual cooperation amongst all religionists. All religionists should unite and cooperate with one another to promote and institute a proper and systematic religious education, not only of a particular religion, but on the essentials of all religious teachings that would enlighten as well as give an insight into the nature of higher spiritual values of life, particularly its moral and ethical values. Such a step would be of definite assistance in reducing, if not wiping off, hardcore religious fanaticisms and traditional prejudices, which have been the bane of interreligious strife. Other measures to help create a better interreligious understanding and mutual regard for one another would be the setting up of interreligious organizations catering for the holding of regular lectures, talks, discussions, seminars, and forums on religions and allied subjects. In so doing, the motivation should always be on the search for common grounds leading to peace and harmony rather than the adoption of an attitude of supremacy or domination of one faith over another. Welfare activities. The holding of fellowship meetings, the institution of community service programs, and other social and welfare activities where all religionists work hand in hand for a common humanitarian cause to uplift the lot of the more unfortunate ones in society would serve as a mean for a common bond of friendship leading to interreligious peace and harmony. Youth organizations. Another important area where religionists should seriously address themselves is in the field of youth organizations and related activities. The youths of today are the adults of tomorrow. They should not be allowed to stray into pitfalls of the present age. All the youthful energies and resources should be properly harnessed and directed towards constructive purposes. They should be apprised of all the fundamental teachings of religion in promoting a peaceful and harmonious society and not fed with venom decrying one faith against another. If properly guided through religious principles such as patience, tolerance, and understanding, the youth of today would be the greatest religionists in the days to come. Tolerance and respect. Tolerance and respect are two vital words that should be borne in mind in a multi-religious society. One should not only preach tolerance but try, on every possible occasion, to put into practice the benign spirit of tolerance, as this spirit would go a long way in creating an atmosphere leading to peace and harmony. We may not understand or appreciate the intrinsic values of certain religious rituals or practices carried out by certain co-religionists. Similarly, others may not be in a position to understand or appreciate our own rituals or practices. If we do not want others to ridicule our actions, we should not ridicule others. We should try to fathom or understand the practices which are foreign to us, as it will help to create a better understanding, thus enhancing the spirit of tolerance amongst the followers of the multi-religious denominations. It has been said that respect begets respect. If we expect other co-religionists to give us that measure of respect in regard to our religious observances, we in turn should not hesitate to show respect to others when they observe their own religious practices. Such an attitude will definitely contribute to a smooth and cordial relationship in a multi-religious society. Without the practical application of the spirit of tolerance and mutual respect for one another, the ugly venom of discrimination, ridicule, and hate would pour forth in jets to destroy the peace and tranquility of our society and our country. It is a fact that in certain countries where the spirit of religious tolerance and mutual respect was non-existent, murder, arson, and destruction of valuable property had taken place. Such senseless action, causing irreparable loss of valuable lives and property, should serve as an eye-opener to all those who cherish peace and harmony. All co-religionists should join hands in friendship and amity and in a spirit of goodwill towards one another, to attain the cherished hope of all peace-loving people in building a harmonious and tranquil society. Spiritual aspects of life. Life in this world is a short span in the space of time. We crave for material gain, but we should not neglect the spiritual aspects of life as taught to us by our religious forebears. We should enrich our lives by putting into practice the pristine and noble teachings of our religious teachers to lead a respectable and useful life, shunning evil at all times. The common denomination propounded by religious teachers of all world religions is for all humanity to lead a humane existence, and to uphold the spiritual aspects of their respective teachings, thus contributing to peace and harmony. Propaganda of religion. In order to propagate a particular religion, it is necessary that the best or the most important aspects of the religion be propounded to gain attention. To put the best foot forward is a fair enough proposition, as all religionists, in trying to sell their religious wares, would invariably do so. However, in a multi-religious society where there is keen competition to solicit devotees and/or converts, there should be a mutual understanding amongst the religious leaders to refrain from belittling, criticizing, or speaking ill on the beliefs and practices of another religionist. It is reasonable that all that is beautiful, attractive, and beneficial in a particular religion be brought forth by its protagonist. But one should refrain from stepping on the shoulders of another religionist in order to tell the world that one's particular religion is the best and only genuine religion, whereas other religious beliefs and practices are fakes. To adopt such an attitude would tend to create ill feelings and animosity among religionists. It is a fact that all religions exist for the good of mankind. All the great teachers of world religions preached peace and harmony for humanity. The respected religious leaders of the world in their wisdom brought forth all that is good, humane, and ethical for the deliverance and emancipation of mankind. The noble religious teachers did not castigate or humiliate one another to create chaos, misunderstanding, and friction amongst the masses. They had the well-being of all mankind at heart. Their sole aim was to create a better world for everyone to live in amity and harmony. The fact that the various world religious leaders appeared in this world at different periods of time and at diverse places tend to create the apparent diversity and multiplicity of religious beliefs and practices prevailing in different environments and in different parts of the world. Each religious leader had his own concept and his own ways and means of imparting religious teachings to his multitude of followers, hence the diversified religious beliefs and practices. Victim of circumstances. If a child happened to be born in a Christian family, there is no other choice except that the child would be brought up in accordance with the religious beliefs and traditions of the parents in a Christian family. Similarly, a child born in a Muslim family would be brought up in accordance with the beliefs and practices of the Islamic faith. And that of a Buddhist family would invariably follow Buddhist way of life. A child born in a Hindu family would be brought up as a Hindu. We are all bound by circumstances, environment, religion, race, and culture, over which we had no control. As a child in a particular religious family, we would be brought up in accordance with dictates and religious background of the parents. The religious beliefs of our parents invariably became our own beliefs and a cultural background for our way of life. Every religionist should try to understand the different environmental and cultural heritage of each and every one of us, and respect the person for what he is and what he believes in as a way of life rather than pushing down the throat of another person of a different faith. By ostentatiously declaring that my religion is the true religion, you ought to embrace my religion, your religion is a false religion. One man's meat could be another man's poison. No compulsion, force, or coercion must be exercised in a multi-religious society, if we desire to live in peace and harmony. Freedom of worship. Although Islam is the official religion of Malaysia, freedom of religious beliefs are enshrined in our country's constitution. We are free to be free thinkers or to follow any religious denomination. We are not compelled to toe any particular line of religious worship or beliefs. Our religious freedom would be maintained and sustained for all time, and that it would not be destroyed by fanatical moves by any fanatical religious group or organization. Fanaticism, in any form from any quarter, is inimical to peace and harmony in any society. Patience, tolerance, and understanding. All of us are perpetually seeking for peace and harmony. We want peace and harmony for our family. We want peace and harmony in society and in our country. We do not want interreligious or interracial clashes. We should uphold all that is ethical. We should practice patience, tolerance, and understanding. We should work as befrienders to one another, helping each other wherever and whenever the need arises. We should discard racial and religious discrimination. Irrespective of race or creed, we should regard one another as brothers and sisters in a happy family. This should be the resolve of all co-religionists in a multi-religious society. Be considerate. Whilst appreciating the fact that in this country we are privileged to carry out our respective religious rites and practices without any hindrance, we must realize that we are living in a multi-religious society, and as such, try to be considerate at all times in whatever we do. We must not forget the feelings of our neighbors who happen to be followers of a different religions, and who may not appreciate certain ritualistic performances which are foreign to them. We must be considerate. We must not be egoistic and think of ourselves and our needs only. We may feel that because of a certain special occasion or happening in our home, sad or otherwise, we must perform certain religious rites and rituals in accordance with our tradition and cultural background. Even so, we must be fair and considerate in that we do not overdo things causing hardship and annoyance to our neighbors. Whatever religious practices performed by us must be done within reasonable limits, and within the confines of our homes without causing undue disturbances to the peace and serenity of our neighborhood. If we dogmatically insist that we have the right to perform our rites and rituals, however noisy, cumbersome, or irritating to others, without caring for the feelings of our neighbors, we would definitely be courting trouble or difficulties, particularly in a multi-religious neighborhood. We must not only be considerate, but we must also be realistic in whatever action we do, particularly in our religious performances, wherein we tend to go to extremes and even become fanatical at times. Consideration for the well-being of others, even under difficult or trying circumstances, is the key to peaceful and harmonious living in a multi-religious society. Itinerant salesman. Many a time householders had cause to complain that the peace and quiet of their homes had been violated by the unwelcome attention of itinerant salesmen hawking their unsaleable religious goods, useful or otherwise, onto the laps of unsuspecting householders. The high-powered sales talk by the inexperienced but overzealous itinerant salesman could be a real nuisance to the householders. They would not listen to a polite no as an answer but would insist that the goods, usually in the form of religious books, are of the finest quality and that by purchasing them, the householders would be stepping on the ladder leading to a heavenly paradise. They never cared to find out the particular religious denomination embraced by the householder. They are not worried as to the intelligence or religious sensitivity of the householder. It is unfortunate that certain religious denominations choose to send out such overzealous religious salesmen to hawk their religious wares. Such an action tends to debase rather than enhance the particular religion. No one likes to be told that they should embrace a particular religion by patronizing certain religious books, failing which they would be heading for eternal damnation in hell. Everyone should be given the respect of a mature thinking person, capable of deciding for oneself the virtues of a particular religion and whether that religion is leading him to heaven or hell. It is the person's choice, a choice fully covered by our country's Constitution on freedom of worship. It is considered that in a multiracial and multireligious society like Malaysia, our religionists should not stand so low as to debase themselves by condemning or speaking ill of other religionists, who have embraced religions formulated by illustrious religious leaders many centuries ago. It would be well for a particular religionist to sing praises of his particular religion in his particular religion rostrum. We should refrain from besmirching the efforts of other religionists and allow the individual to decide on the type of religion that the individual would like to embrace. There is a saying which states that good wine needs no bush. If the wine is good, people will go for it. A person should feel free to choose what religion is good for him without the embarrassing efforts of an itinerant religious hawker trying to sell his religious wares, and insisting that the person should adopt a particular religion. To achieve the elusive peace and harmony in a multi-religious society, everyone should feel free to sing praises for their respective religions but should, at all costs, refrain from slinging mud at one another. The mud will spill and the effects would be disastrous. Politics and religion. Another aspect to be considered in the search for peace and tranquility in a multi-religious society is that political and racial issues should not be introduced into a religious forum. It is appreciated that in present-day politics and even those of yesteryears, politicians would like to influence all institutions including religious institutions to further their political ends. All means are fair game for politicians, but religion should fight shy of politics and politicians. Spiritual platforms cater for the spiritual needs of religious-minded people, including politicians who are religiously minded. But such platforms should not be opened for politicians who might wreck the religious peace and serenity of a place of worship through their political affiliations. Religion is all-embracing, hence there should be no racial barriers whatsoever. Each and every one of us, whilst respecting and upholding our respective religions, must not, under any circumstances, decry or look down upon the teachings of other religionists. We should try to study and understand the basics of all religions, picking up what is good and common in practice and discarding those which are controversial in character. In short, uphold your religion but respect the beliefs of others. This will definitely help in the maintenance of peace and harmony in a multi-religious society. Our aim. The brief write-up in this booklet contains an important message from our chief religious advisor, Venerable Dr. K Sri Dhammananda, for the consideration of all peace-loving people. It is a call to all religionists to work in the true spirit of religious tolerance in their religious practices to promote goodwill, understanding and peace in a multiracial and multi-religious society. Well known for his efforts in promoting patience, tolerance, and understanding especially among the Buddhist community in the country, the venerable author has produced a number of such booklets and articles with the hope to enlighten the public and other fellow religionists to work in peace and harmony with one another so as to effectively promote and maintain moral discipline and a proper sense of religious values amongst their respective adherents. The publication of this booklet has been made possible by the generous support of our members and well-wishers to whom we are extremely grateful. Gems of Buddhist Wisdom. Buddhist attitude towards other religions, 30. By Venerable Dr. K Sri Dhammananda. The aim of this article is to assist in promoting a better understanding of religion, religious tolerance and its deep underlying meaning from the Buddhist point of view, and to understand how Buddhism regards other religions. The deep underlying meaning of religion is to be able to uphold and respect one's own religion, without in any way being disrespectful or discourteous towards other religions. To this end, we must establish mutual understanding, mutual cooperation and tolerance amongst all co-religionists in order to achieve religious harmony. People always talk of religious tolerance and its importance, but few, if any, ever pinpoint a practical way in order to achieve this religious tolerance. It is to be hoped that in perusing this article, the reader would be able to obtain a clearer picture of religious tolerance, and would endeavor to promote religious tolerance. We should try to eradicate our so-called superiority complex, our mutual suspicion, our religious prejudice and our selfish motives, for the common good and upliftment of our respective religions. Therefore, religious understanding is far better than religious tolerance. Therefore, religious understanding is far better than religious tolerance. All fellow religionists are working for the common cause of human emancipation and enlightenment. The search for emancipation and enlightenment is the search for truth. Unfortunately, in our very midst, there are many ludicrous religious practices and beliefs which are depicted or passed off as the truth, when in fact they are far from being the truth. As true religious followers, we must have the courage and conviction to admit what is evidently a misconception and try to rectify it to conform to science and reasoning to meet the requirements of truth. We would be failing in our duty if we try to cling on to something which we know is not the truth. We are even wrong, if in the practice of our religious tolerance, we tolerate it without pointing out its failings or inadequacies which do not conform to truth. In seeking truth, we should discard our competitive attitudes, and unite to work hand in hand to achieve our noble aim of religious harmony for the well-being of mankind. Although the Buddha pointed out that there was no religious value in many of the practices in India during his time, he had the courtesy to advise his followers to give alms or food to the Brahmins and other mendicants and to support them irrespective of their religion. The Buddha advised his followers not to hurt or to cause injury to a sramana, monk, or a Brahmin. Here he has accommodated monks and Brahmins as religious people. Again, the Buddha said that when a person deceives a Brahmin or a monk or pauper by telling a lie, this is a cause of the downfall of the person. Thus, in advising his followers in this manner, the Buddha has treated all of them without any discrimination. The aim of Buddhism is to guide everyone to lead a noble life without harming anyone, to cultivate humane qualities in order to maintain human dignity, to radiate all-embracing kindness without any discrimination, to train the mind to avoid evil and to purify the mind to gain peace and happiness. Buddhism is a religion which teaches people to live and let live. In the history of the world, there is no evidence to show that Buddhists have interfered or done any damage to any other religion in any part of the world for the purpose of propagating their religion. Buddhists do not regard the existence of other religions as a hindrance to worldly progress and peace. The Buddha's message was an invitation to all to join the fold of universal brotherhood to work in strength and harmony for the welfare and happiness of mankind. He had no chosen people, and he did not regard himself as the chosen one. The Buddha's first missionaries were Aryantas, the perfect and holy ones. They were noble human beings who by the sheer effort of their renunciation and mental training had gained perfection. Before sending out these disciples, he had advised them in the following manner: Go ye, O bhikkhus, and wander forth for the gain of the many, for the welfare of the many, in compassion for the world, for the good, for the gain, for the welfare of gods and men. Proclaim, O bhikkhus, the sublime doctrine, preach ye a life of holiness, perfect and pure. According to this advice, the Buddha wanted to tell the people the difference between good and evil. He wanted to teach man how to lead a happy, peaceful, and righteous way of life. He never advised his disciples to convert people from one religion to another. His idea of conversion was to introduce a righteous, noble, and religious way of life. The Buddha did not criticize or condemn any religion other than to enlighten the people by showing them the futility of going into the extremes of self-mortification, or self-torture, and self-indulgence, or sensuality, and to avoid superstitious and meaningless practices in the name of religion. The true religion. On the question of what constitutes a true religion, the Buddha has given a liberal answer, stating that wherever the teachings of the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Paths could be found, and where one can find genuine followers who have gained spiritual development, therein lies the true religion. He did not say that Buddhism is the only true religion in this world, but exhorted man to accept and respect truth wherever truth was to be found. This means that we need not ignore the reasonable teachings of the other religions. Such an attitude clearly shows that the Buddha never had any prejudice towards other religions. Nor did he try to monopolize religious truth. He wanted to point out only one thing, the truth, and all his teachings are based on the Four Noble Truths, that of suffering or unsatisfactoriness, its cause, its cessation, and the way leading to its cessation. Whenever the Buddha advised his disciples to act on or keep away from something, he always asked them to do so, not only for their own welfare and happiness, but also for the welfare and happiness of others. He said, if it is good for you and others, then do it. On the other hand, if it is bad for you and for others, do not do it. As a social reformer, the Buddha discovered the deepest roots of human sorrow, greed, hatred and delusion, which are deeply rooted in man's mind. Therefore, it is only through man's mind that true reform can be effected. Reforms imposed upon the external world by force can only last for a short while. But those that spring from the transformation of man's inner consciousness are more durable. The evil tendencies towards greed, hatred, and delusion must eventually be overcome and substituted by the forces of generosity, loving-kindness, and wisdom. It is only through such mental purification that peace and happiness can be effectively brought about through religion. Buddhism became the first missionary religion the world has seen. Nearly 2,300 years ago, through the noble efforts of Emperor Asoka, who ruled India, 305 BC, 268 BC, and who at the height of his thirst for worldly power, renounced the sword of violence, devoted much of his time for the upliftment of Buddhism and Buddhist culture. He sent out Buddhist missionaries, including his own son and daughter, throughout the entire country of the then known world, to convey the peace message of the Buddha. True to the noble tradition of the Buddha, he never forgot to advise these missionaries not to condemn or to run down any other religion while they preached Buddhism. This advice was engraved on an Asoka pillar in Brahmi characters, the ruins of which can still be seen today at Sarnath, Benares in India. The following statements in the edict says: one should not honor only one's own religion and condemn the religions of others, but one should honor others' religion for this or that reason. In so doing, one helps one's own religion to grow and renders service to the religions of others too. In acting otherwise, one digs the grave of one's own religion and also does harm to other religions. Whosoever honors his own religions, and condemns other religions, does so indeed through devotion to his own religions, thinking, I will glorify my own religion. But on the contrary, in so doing he injures his own religion more gravely. So concord is good, let all listen, and be willing to listen to the doctrines professed by others. The people of Asia have much cause to be grateful to this great monarch. As a ruler, he did his duty to support every existing religion without any discrimination. Religious harmony. Religious principles are intended for the whole of mankind. If any particular section of humanity does not follow the great virtues taught by religion, such as kindness, patience, tolerance, and understanding, it would be difficult for others to live peacefully. It is quite natural for cunning and selfish people to take advantage of any kind of virtue. But, let all religionists of today bear in mind that those who fight and shed blood in the name of religion do not follow religious principles and do not serve the cause of humanity. They fight for their own personal gain or power by using the name of a religion. Those who truly practice a religion have no grounds to fight, they should settle their problems in a peaceful manner. A true religion never encourages any form of violence under any circumstances. At the same time, racial discrimination should not arise when we practice our respective religions. Buddhists can live and work with other religionists without any hostility. Not only that, Buddhists had never shed blood amongst their different denominations or with other religions for the sake of religion. Today, because of the atrocities that have been done and are still continuing to be done, to some extent, in the name of religion, many people have become disillusioned at the mention of the very word, religion. Materialism, hypocrisy, and fanaticism masquerading under the guise of religion have caused the greatest catastrophes in the history of mankind. The true religious values are rapidly disappearing from the minds of men as they run in search of the occult and the mystical. The established great religions of the world are breaking into myriads of forms. And some people are even going all out to ridicule religion. The time has come for religionists of today to get together to introduce religious values in its proper perspective. Instead of merely arguing and quarreling over the differences of religious ideologies and mythologies. Religion should not be confined to worshipping and praying only. Religion is not a means for lip service only but a practical medium for man to act harmlessly. To be of service to mankind, to be good and to gain liberation, peace, and real happiness. Different religions may have different beliefs and views regarding the beginning and the end of life, as well as different interpretations regarding the ultimate salvation. But we should not bring forward such discordant issues to create conflict, confrontation, clashes, hatred and misunderstanding. There are more than enough common virtues for religionists to introduce in theory and practice in the name of religion, so that people may lead a righteous, peaceful, and cultured way of life. There is no need for us to belittle and castigate one another. If we do so, we would only pave the way for the anti-religious groups who are waiting to ridicule and condemn all religions. We should not behave in such a way as to show our hostile attitude to our co-religionists. If we do so, people will say that religions encourage mankind to be divided. Buddhists are not forbidden to give due respect to other religious teachers. Nor are they restricted to visiting places of worship and attending religious services, other than Buddhism. They can show their full cooperation while maintaining their basic Buddhist principles. Buddhism encourages cooperation and understanding amongst the various religious denominations. From the Buddhist point of view, religious labels are not the most important aspect for people to be considered religious. But a person leading a respectable and handless way of life can be regarded as religious. Those who find faults and criticize Buddhism can only do so at a very superficial level. They may criticize the traditional practices, the manners, and customs, but not the teachings as established by the Buddha, as these principles are good for all time. They can be tried out by anyone who wishes to test them. The methods used to introduce the teachings of the Buddha are peaceful and reasonable. The Buddha made his appeal through reason and experience. The teachings were presented with clear and impressive simplicity, and yet kept free from religious and national narrowness and fanaticism. They have produced clear and sober-minded people. This method of presentation cleared doubts and removed superstitious beliefs. Thus did the teachings of the Buddha convince the hearts and minds of the earnest seekers of truth. The Buddhist attitude of tolerance and understanding convinced many great thinkers, philosophers, rationalists, free thinkers, and even agnostics to appreciate Buddhism as a peaceful way of life. According to the Buddha, men are divided among themselves because of their strong egoism. When this is subdued, healthy human relationships will develop. The search for peace and a harmonious way of life, therefore, begins from within and not from the outside. If the religionists of today cannot get together to work in harmony without discrimination or hostility towards one another, the peace that we talk of would only remain as a dream. As sincere and true co-religionists, let us join hands to consolidate our efforts to eradicate all that which are controversial. and discriminatory in our teachings, and do our utmost to introduce spiritual values, which are common in our respective religions for the good and well-being of all mankind, irrespective of race or creed. We should all remember that religion exists for the good of mankind, and that it should not be misused fanatically in any way for personal gain or self-glorification. Unite together. Let all religionists unite not to use religious militarism. Let them unite to stop all the brutality and manslaughter in the name of war. Let them unite to give freedom to man to find a religion according to his own conviction. Let them unite to give up religious monopoly. Let them unite not to use religion in the marketplace to convert others by adopting questionable methods. Let them unite to respect the other man's religious beliefs and practices as long as these beliefs and practices are harmless and do not mislead the public. Let them unite to wipe out the challenging attitude of unhealthy religious competition. Let all religionists unite to eliminate the various vices and immoral practices that are common in our modern society. Let them also unite to introduce the moderate way of life amongst their followers and advise them not to go to extremes. The founders of each religion had as their basic aim the unity of mankind, to foster harmony, goodwill and understanding among all the people of the world. Following in their footsteps, various religious leaders have also sought to develop this deep respect for the beliefs of other people. Unfortunately, however, certain followers of every religion, for their own selfish reasons and due to their intolerance and narrow-mindedness, have gone against the real essence of religion and have created chaos, misconception, discrimination, and intolerance. We earnestly hope that by realizing these facts, mankind will one day unite as religious brothers to work for the well-being of all. In the final analysis, respect for the religion of another person springs from the confidence one has in the intrinsic strength of his own religion. Gems of Buddhist Wisdom. Religious Harmony, 31. By Mr. Teh Thean Choo. In the wake of the new interest in religion manifested in many parts of the world, it has been agreed that fundamental to religion is the belief in God, a belief which can be harnessed to serve the goal of social and cultural harmony in a multi-religious society. Each and every one of us belonging to a particular religious denomination has our own concept and belief on this intricate subject. In browsing through the dictionary, I find the description of God as the self-existing supreme deity, a divinity. This description is popularly accepted by the major religions of the world. Buddhists respect other co-religionists in their religious concepts and beliefs. Buddhism, as a most tolerant religion, enjoins its followers never to belittle the religious beliefs and practices of people of different faith. Although Buddhism does not subscribe to the general notion of a creator god, Buddhism nevertheless teaches that such gods, deities and devas are divine beings living in certain planes of existence of their own in the universe, and that such beings are capable of exercising some form of influence on earthly mortals in their worldly activities. However, Buddhists are not taught to seek any external aid or form of supplication from such gods, deities, or devas for their own salvation. In order to seek one's own salvation, Buddhism advocates a process of mental purification. At the spiritual level, through the performance of selfless service and dedication through the individual's efforts in the practice of morality, concentration, and wisdom. In this context, in our multi-religious and multiracial society, our fellow Buddhists, working hand in hand with other co-religionists, striving for the peace and harmony of our country, can be in no disagreement whatsoever with the believers of other faiths in the concepts on the subject of belief in God. It is accepted that such a belief and concept does help to create a spirit of religious awareness that would mold the individual, the society and the community towards a more humane feeling for one another and generating a spirit of tolerance and understanding. Thus kindling the torch, not of hatred and discrimination, but of world peace and harmony for all humanity and for all time. Not in rivalry but in unity. All religions exist for the good of mankind. All religions teach and exhort mankind to live and behave as decent human beings. It is incumbent that all religionists should consider getting together, not in rivalry but in unity. cooperation and understanding to make people realize and appreciate the value of spiritual aspects of life. The value of devotion and the basic principles of religion such as the ideal of truth, justice, dedicated service, charity, loving kindness, and goodwill towards mankind. These concepts and principles are universal in character and should be generally acceptable to all religionists. Freedom of worship. Although Islam is the official religion of Malaysia, freedom of worship and religious beliefs are enshrined in our country's constitution. We are allowed to be free thinkers or to follow any religious denomination. We are not compelled to toe any particular line of religious worship or belief. We cherish this freedom. It is to be hoped that this freedom of ours would be maintained and sustained for all time, and that it would not be marred or destroyed by the moves of any fanatical religious group or organization. Fanaticism, in any form or from any quarter, is inimical to peace and harmony in any society. All of us are perpetually seeking for peace and harmony. We want peace and harmony for our family. We want peace and harmony in society. We do not want interreligious clashes, nor do we bargain for interracial conflicts. We want to live and let live. To achieve these, we should uphold all that is ethical. We should practice patience, tolerance, and understanding. We should befriend one another, helping one another wherever and whenever the need arises. We should discard racial and religious discrimination. Irrespective of race or creed, we should regard one another as brothers and sisters in a happy family, and as law-abiding citizens, striving for peace and harmony. This should be the resolve of all co-religionists in a multi-religious society. Be considerate. Whilst appreciating the fact that in this country, we are privileged to carry out our respective religious rites and practices without any hindrance. Living in a multiracial and multi-religious society means that we should try to be considerate at all times in whatever we do. We must not forget the feelings of our neighbors who are followers of a different religious denomination, and who may not appreciate certain ritualistic performances foreign to them. We must be considerate. We must not be egoistic and think of ourselves and our needs only. Because of a certain special occasion or happening in our home, sad or otherwise, we wish to perform certain religious rites and rituals in accordance with our tradition and cultural background. Be fair and considerate by not overdoing things and causing hardship and annoyance to our neighbors. Whatever religious practices are performed, they must be done within reasonable limits, and within the confines of our homes without causing undue disturbances to the peace and serenity of our neighborhood. If we dogmatically insist on the right to perform our rites and rituals, however noisy, cumbersome, or irritating to others, without caring for the feelings of our neighbors, we would definitely be courting trouble, or particularly in a multi-religious neighborhood. Consideration for the well-being of others, even under difficult or trying circumstances, is the key to peaceful and harmonious living in a multi-religious society. Universal common ground. Admittedly, we have our differences in our various concepts and beliefs. Nevertheless, we have a vast universal common ground, the eradication of evil, the spread of goodwill amongst men, and the search for peace, eternal bliss, and salvation. These are common aims of all religions. Many of the intrinsic religious principles enshrined in various religions are also similar in character. To achieve unity, it is necessary that all religionists should shed their cloak of egoism and superiority, and deliberate in the spirit of tolerance, patience, and mutual understanding. It is our duty to respect the other man's religious belief, whatever our religious belief may be. Religious tolerance is absolutely essential and necessary for the sake of harmonious and peaceful living. Essence of similarities. Instead of castigating and portraying certain religious differences in a humiliating manner, it would be a wonderful achievement if our religious leaders and all religionists could make a study of all religious beliefs and practices and portray the essence of similarities in all that is good and worthwhile for the common consumption of all religionists. I quote here under some shining examples of some similarities. Buddhism says, "Hurt not others in ways that you yourself would find hurtful." The Taoist says, Regard your neighbor's gain as your own gain, and your neighbor's loss as your own loss. The Christian says, all things whatsoever ye would that man should do to you, do you even so to them. The Muslim says, do unto all men as you would they should do unto you, and reject for others what you would reject for yourself. The Hindu says, let no one do to others what he would not have done to himself. Honor the founders. As Buddhists, we are taught to respect and honor the founders and teachers of other religious denominations and their teachings. It is appreciated that all religious teachers have dedicated their lives for the sake of human welfare and well-being. They deserve respect and honor for their selfless services and devotion for the good of mankind. This is another significant aspect of religious tolerance exemplified by Buddhists. It is our sincere belief that tolerance, particularly religious tolerance, is a virtue that each and every one of us must inculcate as a way of life. Just as good begets good, respect begets respect, and tolerance begets tolerance. Religious tolerance. Without tolerance, we will be going back to the law of the jungle where chaos reigns and where might is right. This is not for the good of our society. This is not what our country wants. All of us, irrespective of race or creed, want to live in peace and harmony. We want to coexist with one another for the good of one another. Therefore, it is incumbent that we should not only preach tolerance but we should practice tolerance. Particularly religious tolerance. We are proud and happy to note that as far as our country is concerned, religious tolerance is being practiced and upheld by our religionists to a high degree. Many visitors to our country have noted with pleasant surprise the existence of a mosque, a church or a temple, in close proximity with one another in many towns in Malaysia, with devotees of various religious denominations streaming in and out of their respective places of worship without any interference whatsoever. This is religious tolerance as it is. The authorities concerned are also actively promoting inter-religious harmony by sponsoring regular meetings of religious leaders of diverse denominations to deliberate on various religious issues for ensuring goodwill and the maintenance of peace and amity in the country. One false step. Whilst we are living in peace and harmony, the world today lives in constant fear, suspicion, and tension. This is due to the existence of deadly weapons that could cause unimaginable destruction or annihilation within the space of minutes. Brandishing these awful instruments of death, the superpowers are threatening and challenging one another, boasting shamelessly that one can cause more destruction and misery in the world than the other. They have traveled along this path of madness to such a point that, now, if one false step is taken in a certain direction, the result will be nothing but mutual annihilation along with the total and complete destruction of humanity. Intrinsic religious principles. Human beings, in fear of the situation they have themselves created, would want to find a way out, and seek some form of solution. The solution is difficult to find except through religion and the spiritual development of man. Harnessing intrinsic religious principles to counter the evil intent of the warmongers. All the religionists of the world have an important part to play. The role of the various religions must be collaborative and not competitive. The Buddha's message of nonviolence and peace, of love and compassion, of tolerance and understanding, of truth and wisdom, of respect and regard for all life, of freedom from selfishness, hatred, and violence, delivered well over 2,500 years ago, could be utilized with the basic principles of other co-religionists to dispel the fear, suspicion, and tension prevailing in this world. Seen in whatever light, the Buddha's message cannot be considered as narrow and restrictive but universal in character and application. Spiritual rearmament. Religious harmony and spiritual rearmament should be nurtured as a spiritual force to counter the madness of today's armaments race, for the total and complete destruction of humanity. To establish real and lasting peace, it is necessary that ways and means must be found to eliminate the root cause of war. Men and nations must renounce selfish desires, racial arrogance, and the egoistic lust for possession and power. Greed, hatred, and delusion must be done away with. Materialism alone cannot ensure real happiness. Religion alone can effect the spiritual change of heart and bring about the disarmament of the mind. This is the real and lasting disarmament. Youth and religion. It is noticed that in many parts of the world, many young people are turning away from religion. They maintain that religion is not important for their daily existence and that religion is an unnecessary burden for mankind. They consider that religion hinders a man's thinking power. These young people, intoxicated with modern concepts of materialism and modern trends of enjoyment, feel that they can do very well without religion. This is a sad state of affairs, apparently depicting the failure of world religions to guide and influence the young people to a path of spiritual emancipation. It is time that responsible religious leaders and responsible thinking people of the world should get together to ascertain the root causes of the failure of many of our religious missions, causing our young people to stray away from time-honored religious principles, beliefs, and concepts. Efforts must be made to convince and persuade the younger generation to appreciate and realize the important role that religion and religious emancipation can and must play in their daily lives. All religions have one common aim: to be of service to mankind and the spiritual upliftment of humanity. All religions preach goodwill and proclaim the brotherhood of men. These common aims and ideals, for the good of humanity, should transcend whatever differences that may exist in respect of religious beliefs, concepts, and practices. There must be unity in diversity. We must not try to ridicule the man with the mote in his eye, forgetting the beam that is obstructing our own eyes. All religionists should try to seek a common platform and work in unison for the spiritual upliftment of humanity, so that religion may contribute to the perfection of human nature and ennoble humanity to the perfection of religion. All religionists should stretch out their hands to their fellow religionists with genuine feelings of goodwill, sincere friendship and brotherhood, with respect and reverence for each other and for each other's religions, to strive for the achievement of a noble common cause in the spiritual upliftment of the individual, for human well-being, justice, and peace. Divine qualities. Fundamental to religion is the belief in God. With profound respect, may I be bold to suggest that apart from the single concept of belief in God, fundamental to religion should be the observance and putting into practice of all the intrinsic religious principles enshrined in all religions in our search to find Godhead or divine qualities pervading our life, in thought, word, and deed. With bad advisers forever left behind, from paths of evil he departs for eternity, soon to see the Buddha of limitless light and perfect Samantabhadra's supreme vows, the supreme and endless blessings of Samantabhadra's deeds, I now universally transfer. May every living being, drowning and atrophied, soon return to the pure land of limitless light. The vows of Samantabhadra. I vow that when my life approaches Pounti's end, all obstructions will be swept away. I will see Amitabha Buddha, and be born in his western pure land of ultimate bliss and peace. When reborn in the western pure land, I will perfect and completely fulfill without exception these great vows, to delight and benefit all beings. The vows of Samantabhadra Avatamsaka Sutra.